Alarambal jate vartor narvore in Mandoa in English. Welcome and good morning, my brothers and sisters. My name is Udesla Jorir. I am the co-founder of the Way of The Mandalore Religious Movement. We are a registered domestic nonprofit in the state of Ohio and a legal federal 501c3 private charity. As usual, we need to make it clear that this video and other social media posts are for religious educational purposes only. No one involved in the social media pages or multimedia messages are lawyers, and nothing in this or any other message or social media post is to be taken as legal advice. End of disclaimer. Welcome once again to the Way of the Mandalore Religious Movement. If you are so inclined, please consider giving us a like and a follow here and on our various social media pages. And consider donating to the Patreon, if you will, so we can continue to produce these multimedia messages and spread the way to those who are willing to hear it. This QR code will take you to all of our social media, all in one place. You can follow us on Facebook, on MeWe, on Instagram, and on Twitter. And if the QR code doesn't work for you, the links will, of course, be in the description. Our last sermon message, we discussed a Mandalorian's self-care with the sixth tenet and a Mandalorian's requirement to train both their body and mind to the best of their individual ability. In this video, we will be circling back to another aspect of a Mandalorian's treatment of other people. Tenet 7, judge others by their actions only. A Mandalorian must not discriminate against another person based on anything other than their individual actions and choices. Race, gender identity, political affiliation, sexual orientation, economic status, disability, etc. have no bearing for keepers of the way. As Mandalorians, we believe that actions and choices alone define an individual. We do not judge based on any single aspect of an individual's being. Every person is unique, genetically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Therefore, we cannot judge an individual's merits, or lack thereof, on any single factor. This applies not only to our fellow Mandalorians, but to all individuals, regardless of whether or not they keep the way. Discrimination, or even simply passing a quick judgment on an individual based on anything but their actions and choices, is not only wrong, it's foolish. And as keepers of the way, we cannot be foolish.
Skin color prejudice? That's so pathetic, it's almost quaint.
It ain't quaint.
As discussed in the last video, we must train our bodies and our minds. And when using our minds, we must realize that only an individual's actions and choices truly matter. This relates a bit to the ninth tenet, but it might help put this tenet into perspective. Foundlings. Foundlings come from every walk of life, from every possible background and heritage. Would we ever abandon a foundling based on anything so completely outside their control? The idea of the foundling represents many things, but in this context, they represent the almost limitless potential within all of us, regardless of our origins. If we would never abandon a foundling, then why should we condemn others for any reason outside their control? Any judgment based on race, gender, economics, disability not only limits the number of individuals we engage and interact with, it limits both our experience in the world and our access to potential allies and their special and unique experiences that perhaps we would not be familiar with. This obviously does not mean that people of different backgrounds are to be seen simply as resources or veins of ore to mine for their knowledge. Under the helm. All are equal under the helm. What does it mean to be under the helm? Some have said that it means that this should only apply to others who choose to keep the way. That is a misinterpretation. When we say that all are equal under the helm, it is meant to apply to us as keepers when we look at others. The helm, like any helmet, in this context is meant not only to protect the person wearing it, but to focus their vision. Therefore, the helm does not only apply to other keepers, but rather represents the way we should view others should we choose to keep the way. Now, this isn't a perfect analogy, but you can think of the helm as a filter of sorts. It removes race, sex, orientation, and so on, and everything else about an individual that is beyond their control, and leaves only that person and their individual actions and choices. Therefore, when we say all are equal under the helm, that applies to the way we as keepers should view others rather than everyone being under some sort of umbrella shield. Sins of the fathers. It has been written in other religious texts and held by other religions that the sins of the fathers will be carried by their sons and grandsons and so on. That there shall be some kind of stain upon people simply because they fall into a certain bloodline, heritage, or family line that they must be held accountable or judged on. This concept of original sin or hereditary guilt is in complete opposition to the way and must be rejected out of hand. No individual is responsible for the sins or the successes of their ancestors. This means that Mandalorians should not take it upon themselves as a sense of accomplishment in regard to what their ancestors have done, nor should they feel shame or accept any blame upon themselves for what people of whatever demographic have done in generations past. As Mandalorians, we take responsibility for our own choices and actions, and no one else's. Our father, grandfather, mother, grandmother, on through the ages, back to the dawn of humanity on this planet. None of this matters to us as keepers of the way. It's interesting how often this topic comes up elsewhere outside the way, when talking about things like breaking the cycle of abuse. So many people are willing and even eager to voice their support of those who have chosen to set aside their familial historical patterns and who choose a new and better life for them and their children. Such efforts are loudly applauded, and rightly so. They have set aside the sins of their fathers and moved on to forge their own lives and to take responsibility for themselves and not place blame on those who came before them. At no time and under no circumstances should anyone be made or encouraged to feel shame or pride based on their racial or national heritage. Of course, we should recognize and speak out against past evils committed against others, but at no time should we feel the need to make amends for them. We must focus on the present and the future and work towards a better tomorrow for all individuals regardless of their background. As the Mandalorian proverb goes, nobody cares who your father was, only the father you will be. Way to say, outsiders, or those outside the way of the Mandalore. This word has multiple meanings within the traditional Mandola language, but for the sake of this tenet, we will be using the blanket term outsider. How should we, as keepers of the way, behave toward those who do not share our faith? We must treat those outside the way fairly, based again solely on their individual actions. We do not judge them based on any demographic, and this includes their religion. By all means, speak out against the groups to which they belong if they have shown themselves to be hateful. Unless there is an active, informed, and voluntary situation, the way does not condone guilt by association. Now, there will be those who voice their claim to belong to this religion and still perpetuate their beliefs in regards to discrimination, or who will voluntarily associate with groups that support segregation or any form of racial or other prejudice. They shall not be treated as keepers of the way. However, and this is something that goes against some modern thinking and behavior, this does not mean that they are beyond hope, that they are beyond redemption, or that they should be cast aside, forgotten, or canceled. The Way of the Mandalore is a faith that encourages and respects those who seek to move beyond and improve and grow the person that they used to be. Anyone who honestly seeks to keep the way and change their views must be encouraged and supported, not automatically condemned for their past mistakes. The Way reminds and teaches us of the possibility of redemption of the individual. That regardless of where we come from, no matter our race, background, social standing, we can make the choice to keep the way, and with the support of our fellow keepers, to the best of our ability. As Mandalorians, we are individuals who are voluntarily a part of a community that values strength, honor, and loyalty. We must live up to these values every day and not allow ourselves to be swayed by petty prejudice, hate, or stereotypes.
We can't be consumed by our petty differences anymore.
The Way of the Mandalore is not just a philosophy, it is a creed. It is a promise, a vow, and a way of life. And we must do our best to embody it in everything we do and show the world what it truly means to be a Mandalorian. Therefore, my fellow keepers, let us go forth with our weapons held ready and our armor held secure. Let us all stand together under the helm and reject all forms of discrimination and undue prejudice. Until next time, Vore. Vorentie, Manduade, Balkuir, Marutje, Kibikruni. Thank you, brothers and sisters, and be safe. This is the way.